Good morning, everyone. My name is Keandra Jones, and I'm the president of the Oak Cliff Chamber of Commerce. I just wanted to welcome you to the Oak Cliff Chamber's May Economic Development Committee meeting. This committee is being chaired by our very own Councilmember Thomas, and in just a few moments, I'm going to turn things over to him. But before I do, just kind of wanted to give you the flow of the meeting. Since this will be a pretty well-attended meeting, we'll have about 70 folks on this morning. We just want to make sure that we understand how things will go this morning. We'll hear from our speaker, Peter Brodsky, which will provide Red Bird updates. Throughout the course of that presentation, you may have some questions. Feel free to drop those questions in the chat boxes. Your phones will remain on mute, but Councilmember Thomas will address all of the questions at the end of the presentation. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Councilmember Thomas.
Thank you, President Jones. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. This is our second Economic Development Zoom virtual committee meeting. Last month, we had the great Dr. Eric Anthony Johnson. He is our Chief of Economic Development and Neighborhood Revitalization. And he talked about how he put together, and I consider him to be the architect of our economic recovery package. And he walked us right through it. We learned a little bit about him. He's not from here. He came here, matter of fact, just as the first positive case of COVID-19, he had just arrived in Dallas. So he had to go and work immediately, and he did a magnificent job of putting together a package that's been able to help a lot of our small businesses and help a lot of the residents of Dallas, Texas. So if you missed that, I know the Oak Cliff Chamber records these, so please go back and watch that. But today, I'm excited to have my friend, Mr. Peter Brodsky, former board member. We served on this board together, and we thank him for what he's doing in the community, how he's providing support for people during this time of need. But today we have Peter, and he's going to talk about the latest updates. He is the owner of Red Bird Mall, and it's been about 5 years, huh, Peter?
It has been 5 years, if you can believe that. It'll be 5 years in September.
Wow. I know I was a newbie on the council. Shortly after you bought the mall, you invited me to lunch. We sat down, had a good conversation. You wanted to hear from me, what the community wanted to see, and you have been very active in working to bring those type of quality forms of retail to this historically African-American community. So I want to thank you for that. So at this time, I'm going to introduce to some, present to others, my friend, Mr. Peter Brodsky.
Well, thank you very much, Councilman, and thank you, Keandra, for the opportunity to address everyone. I'm going to go through a presentation, and I am going to then take questions at the end. So feel free to type any questions in chat, and either the councilman or I will address them at the end. So I want to begin by just acknowledging a few people that have really made this possible, because I'm really proud of the progress that we've made here. But this is a project that definitely takes a village. So the first group that I want to acknowledge is just the community itself. Everyone on this call is a member of this community, and this community has been so supportive of what we're trying to do in every way. And it truly would not be happening if everybody on this phone and everybody in the surrounding neighborhoods we're not just very active and supportive and giving honest feedback, because sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad, but if we don't get it, we can't change it. So that's been absolutely key. This is also a development that, while it is in District 8, it is across the street from District 3. So Councilman Atkins and Councilman Thomas have been really incredible supporters, both emotionally, legislatively, and financially. So I don't know if you guys tuned in, but we were awarded an additional $3 million of bond proceeds by the city of Dallas. Both Councilman Atkins and Councilman Thomas contributed from their discretionary funds, which is incredible, especially in Thomas's case, because it's not even in his district. Although he knows and we know that we serve his district, and so I very much appreciate the partnership. And I don't know whether Councilman Atkins is able to be on this call, but I also want to acknowledge the leadership he plays. We're on the phone multiple times a week, problem solving, and he gives terrific counsel. He's been a terrific representative at City Hall. So the 1-2 punch of Atkins and Thomas has been incredible. The RBCA has been fantastic. Edna Pemberton. This all started with her throwing her body in front of in front of the utility company to keep the mall lights on. She's continued to be steadfast and incredible. And then we have a great shareholder group with folks like Roland Parrish and others that just are incredible sources of support. So with that said, let me hopefully not screw up the technology and share my screen. I'm going to run through a quick presentation. I've got a short video, and then we can take it from there. So can everybody see this beautiful REIMAGINE Red Bird logo? Yes? Okay. All right. So I'm going to assume that 5 years in, folks already know or don't really care sort of how this all started. What really matters for this committee, since you're focused on economic development, is what are we doing? And so that's what we're going to focus on. So the first thing is, I just want to remind everyone, one of the big issues that this development has always faced is the parcel ownership. This is a 122 acre parcel, 90 acres inside the ring road here. And every color here represents a different owner. When we first bought the mall back in 2015, and all we really bought was this red part here. And so you really can't do much with that. It really takes a consolidation. That's exactly what the ULI study that Councilman Atkins commissioned back in 2013 said, is that you have to consolidate the parcel. And so that's what we've tried to do. We've now done 11 acquisitions, and that is what we own today. So it's not everything, but it's most of it. Any spot that is not red is a spot that we have our eye on. I definitely, I've lived in Texas now just over half my life. I think April 8th was my half-life anniversary of being a Dallas Texan. And I've got a motto that I learned in Texas, which is pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered. So we try very hard to be piggish but not hoggish. And I've definitely not wanted to bite off more than we could chew. And so we're not trying to buy everything all at once, but take in additional parcels as we're able to afford them and as they're able to be developed. So the latest example of that here is this parcel over here, which is the old Sears parcel that we were able to acquire and immediately lease to UT Southwestern to bring medical clinics. So that's a big advancement. There are a bunch of other parcels that we would like to buy, but we're gonna wait until we've digested a little bit more of what it is that we've got. I mentioned the community before. It's really important to understand just how important the community is to our development and what our commitments have been, because they are all about economic development. So I'd say the two biggest places where we've really economically been involved with the community, actually there's several of them. One is we have a very, very diverse ownership group. And several members of our ownership group are from this community. I mentioned Roland Parrish. Randy Bowman is a big and important investor. Terrence Maiden is not a cash investor, but he's my day-to-day partner on this deal, and he's from this area. I talk to Councilman Atkins 3 times a week. I talk to Terrence 3 times a day. If he were better looking, my wife would be jealous. We talk all the time. And so that's a really important factor. The other is our commitment to local minority-owned businesses. We have a very, very deep commitment to making sure that the money that is invested here ends up in the pockets of the people who comprise the community, not just the public dollars, but the private dollars as well. And we agreed to some very stout commitments with the city of a hard minimum of 25% MWBE participation, with a best efforts to get to 40%, which is, and best efforts, there's a process to qualify for best efforts. Right now we're at 64%. And so we're very, very proud of that. And we focus on locally owned companies. I will also say that while we are very interested in supporting minority and women-owned businesses of all kinds, we have a particular awareness that this mall being in a predominantly African-American community, we have a particular awareness that African-American businesses typically get a very, very, very small percentage of MWBE spend. And so we have focused especially on making sure that our MWBE spend is equitable. And so we have, I believe, a majority of our MWBE spend actually is with local African-American owned businesses. So we're very, very proud of that. And we work very hard to make sure that everybody has the equal opportunity. What I'm really happy to report is that we have never, ever had to sacrifice price or quality to meet these goals. It is an absolute myth that MWBE participation and best price and best quality are somehow mutually exclusive, or that one has to be sacrificed for the other. If you're proactive in making sure that everybody has equal information at an equal time, then the best company wins, and things work out the way they should. So we're very, very happy about that. So let me go through, and we're not going to be making any news today. I think everything that we're going to talk about has been announced. But we're excited that this page has filled up significantly. It really started with Jarvis and the Red Bird deck. They were our first 2 office tenants, beginning to change how Red Bird is perceived and how Red Bird is thought to be utilized. The terms in which Red Bird can be utilized, not just as a shopping mall. I will also say that a big part of what we're doing is trying to make sure that the community rises as the development rises. That's the way you fight against gentrification, is that we want gentrification if gentrification means better amenities. What we don't want is displacement. We want the amenities that we're providing to be utilized and enjoyed by this community as it is currently comprised. And so by having things like the deck that supports entrepreneurs, by having workforce solutions right on site, by improving medical outcomes and access to medical care, what we're doing is trying to make sure that the community is benefiting and is able to continue to grow their income, et cetera, and grow their health outcomes and get better enjoyment out of life to be able to enjoy the amenities that are around. So it started with those two. I have enduring loyalty to Starbucks because they were the first major brand to come to this development and really get the fact that the community both wants and can afford the highest quality of amenities, and they're getting financially rewarded for it, because even with the store only doing drive-through, they are killing it. They performed way above expectations, and I don't know the numbers of what they've done during the pandemic. All I know is that the line is very, very long. So that's a good thing. We've recently opened a brand new Foot Locker on the outside that is beautiful. Parkland and UT Southwestern are currently in process. Parkland is going to be 43,000 square feet of primary care clinics. UT Southwestern is going to be 150,000 square feet of specialty clinics with a focus on cancer, cardiology, geriatrics, and a series of other specialties that the community said it wanted and needed. Breast cancer is massively underdiagnosed in this community, and UT Southwestern is really focused on addressing that. Palladium, this is a great example of what we're trying to do. Palladium is going to be a first-class, upscale apartment building, 4 stories, structured parking garage, granite countertops, beautiful pool, workout facility, common areas, but it's going to be 70% workforce housing, which means that folks in the area who want a luxury product and can afford a luxury product will get it. And folks in the area who want to live in the area and don't want to be displaced, there's plenty of opportunity to live here. So let me just move the camera and make sure I'm not missing any of the logos. The Frost Bank is going to be opening shortly, I believe in July. Chime Solutions, another business that the city has supported financially. They've created 1,000 jobs at Red Bird. 1,000 jobs. They've got 2 shifts of 500 people. It's a call center, but it's a call center that is committed to living wages, where the lowest compensation that anyone in that facility earns is $14 an hour plus full benefits. And as an example of their commitment, they're very proud of the fact that during this pandemic, when they've had to be closed, they were able to provide most of their employees with equipment so that they could work from home. And these are generally employees. They're mostly entry-level positions. Most entry-level positions aren't afforded that opportunity to continue earning money by working from home, and they were able to make that happen. So we feel like we're creating a really terrific environment where we're going to have probably 1,500 people working every day on the site. And during lunch, they're going to go grab a Starbucks where we're trying to recruit in restaurants, and we're getting traction with some restaurants. After work, maybe they'll stop by a bar and get a drink with some friends. They'll hang out on our green space, and during Christmas, they'll go downstairs to the mall and do their Christmas shopping. And so we think the whole thing is creating a lot of economic development. The one thing that's really been affected negatively by the pandemic in terms of we're set to begin that process, trying to break ground this summer, but with what's happened with the hotel industry in general, that's on hold indefinitely, and I frankly don't know when the hotel industry will be in a place where it's ready to expand. Okay, so I'm going to show you a series of pictures of before and after, and then I'm going to show you a short video. Some of that will be repetitive, but this is what the site looked like when we bought it. You guys know the stores. And this is a vision of what it will look like taken from the same angle. And so you've got UT Southwestern over here in the old Sears building. This building is where Parkland is going to go and where Workforce Solutions already is. We have demolished about half of what we're going to demolish. We're about here right now. We're going to demolish the rest of it and create a public plaza. This is the Palladium apartment building I referenced. This is what it's going to look like. This is where the hotel will eventually go. You've got Starbucks here. This is a 1 acre green space that we're calling the lawn. This is Foot Locker, which is now open. These are future buildings that we intend to build for restaurants around the lawn. And this is very aspirational, but we do want to have grocery here eventually. And we think that where the Firestone is would be a great place. Don't take that to the bank. We don't know if or when we're going to get grocery, and if we do, where it's going to be. But we wanted to have an indication on here that groceries on our minds. This is the current Macy's. Or actually, doesn't even look like this anymore because you got Foot Locker right here. This is what it's going to look like. This is how we intend to reskin the building. This is the 1 acre green space we've discussed. Over on the left is the Foot Locker building, and that is actually what it looks like. And so we think this will be a much, much nicer, more appealing way to enter the development. Excuse me. This is the old Dillard's. This is what the Dillard's will look like. This is a slightly dated rendering. We're actually going to have an entrance to Parkland over here. Workforce Solutions is over here. But the idea of having an entry lobby with windows and windows punched in all along the facade to make it appropriate for office is what we're going for. This is what the current inside looks like. This is how we envision the inside. Not really changing that much. It's really changing floors, ceilings, and lighting, and then different furniture. You can get a whole different look. This was the old front entrance. This is how we envision the new front entrance over here with restaurants. Excuse me. Pardon me. I got put the wrong slide in. This is a close up of what the Macy's is going to look like. Excuse me. This is center court. This is how we envision center court could look with offices overlooking it. This is the back of the Sears. And this is what we intend for the UT Southwestern to look like. This is the eastern facade. We're going to end up knocking down about 50,000 square feet. So a completely remade site with a lot of grass, a lot of landscaping, updated buildings, and a lot more uses than just retail. We do think that the bottom floor of the mall will continue to be retail, but retail, if it was dying before, now it's suffering from a pandemic, literally and figuratively. And so we really don't know exactly how that's going to look. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to stop sharing for 1 sec so that I can pull up a short video that we made. Don't get your hopes up for anything too professional looking. I did this on iMovie, but it gives you some live footage of, you can see a picture of my kids there. It gives you some live footage of what it looks like. So this is the vision that we talked about. And this is the Macy's. As I said, some of this will be repetitive, but there's new material in here in a sec. We're hoping to have food all on the east side of that Macy's. So this is a more updated rendering. This is what the Parkland Clinic will look like. So this is actual footage of the Foot Locker and part 1 of the green space. This is the Starbucks. This is the old Suit Outlet building that's going to be anchored by Frost. This is these are some details. So this is what the Dillard's looks like right now. We've taken off the facade. This is what it sounds like right now. This is inside of Chime. And we did this so that we can show office tenants how this facility looks as an office. This is a classroom. This is their main facility. Let me pause for a sec and point out a few things. First of all, you can see Chime really finished it out very nicely. It's part of their philosophy of treating people well, treating people respectfully, giving them a respectful environment. The whole thing was they outfitted with Veridesk, which is, all of that furniture is people can turn it into standing desks if they want. So it's a very vast facility. Obviously empty right now. They kept the ceilings open, so they're very high, creates a lot of air. We punched in skylights to create natural light. This is Workforce Solutions. That's at the Dillard's building. This is their entry right from the parking field. This is their main reception desk, and then they also have classrooms. A little kind of breakout area, and then a lot of cubicles. Okay. Yes. And then this is what the Macy's looks like right now. And this is where future office can go. So that is my presentation in terms of prepared remarks. It's telling me I have to ask permission from the host for something. There we go. So that's my presentation in terms of prepared remarks, but I would be more than happy to answer any questions. And I see on the call is Patrina Bonnick-Higgins, who has run the aforementioned MWBE program. So shout out to her and Akari Management for doing a fantastic job for us. I see Charles had a question about Jarvis Christian. They occupy, how much space they occupy? They occupy about 6,000 square feet. They've got, I think, 4 classrooms and some administrative offices. Councilman, do you want to read out the questions, or you want me to just kind of look and answer them as they pop up?
Just since you finished, as you see them, you can answer.
Sure.
Someone who asked about Burlington. I have a couple of questions for you, but let's go ahead and answer the one about Burlington.
So Burlington is the one area on the site within the mall that we don't own. We're in constant conversation with them. As of right now, they are committed to staying. Now, I've told them that their store looks awful and is not in keeping with the level of quality and the level of amenity that we're looking to provide. Frankly, the same could be said of the inside of the mall currently. But we have plans to renovate, as we grow our tenants. Burlington has indicated that they do intend to renovate, but they've given us no details on the timing. Unfortunately, they own that property. They're not a tenant. They have no obligations to do anything that they don't want to do. But I do believe that as they see the level of activity going up, and they become more profitable in that store, that they will renovate. If they don't, and they continue to have it look terrible, at a certain point, we may just decide that they're welcome to do what they want to do, but we don't want to be associated with that and close off the entrance or something like that, from the mall. But I think we're a long ways away from that.
All right. So my first question, Peter, is in light of the pandemic, talk about before, pre-COVID, and during COVID, why it was important to get UT Southwestern and Parkland as tenants in the Red Bird redevelopment.
Well, I think this pandemic has done an effective job of exposing in an undeniable way the inequities in our society. It is undeniable that communities of color have suffered much worse in this pandemic than any other communities. And so I think a lot of people knew that before, but it's just naked and it's undeniable now. And so that just underscores the need for more medical facilities in the area. I mean, what it boils down to is that what started out as an observation that there weren't a lot of great places to get something to eat and there was no place to get a good cup of coffee, and wanting to provide better amenities, what's happened over the last 5 years is that the definition of amenities has expanded greatly. Amenities such as first-class housing, great job opportunities, and medical. And so the combination of having primary care with Parkland and specialty care with UT Southwestern, serving populations up and down the income spectrum. Perspective. From a real estate perspective, I think it's blatantly obvious to everyone on this call that Macy's and Sears are no longer the draws that they once were. And we need to anchor this development with other amenities that will draw people to the site. And people go to the doctor. I know there's telemedicine, but people are always going to go to the doctor. And people go to work, and people go to hotels, and people go home. And so those are the things that we're trying to put around any retail we've got to get people on the site. And so that was it was a win-win. So it was necessary pre-COVID, and it's even more necessary post-COVID.
Excellent. Let's go ahead and look at the group because they have several questions. Let's start with Eddie Reeves. Can you see Eddie's question?
I can, yeah. So the question, if you're not looking, is how can we make sure to support the businesses that are supporting our community? So Eddie, it's a great question. The first thing I would recommend is that anybody who is interested in meeting Mark and Shelley Wilson who own Chime, I would reach out to them because they are absolutely first-class human beings, and they're going to be spending a lot of time here, and so I think just having them know more people in the community, leaders in the community, is important. But in terms of financially supporting them, they are a call center. They do high-end, highly skilled inbound calls. So they do benefits onboarding for AT&T. They work with Kaiser Health to help direct people to the right doctor. I mean, these are not easy, low-skill tasks. And so if you know of a business that has a call center need, these guys compete on price and quality. They don't compete on their social mission. Their social mission is their personal mission. But what they compete on is the best service at the best price. And so if you want to support them, any business that you have influence these sorts of services or currently uses these services in another country, make sure they know that right here in our community, there are Americans, in our city that do a bang up job, and refer them over to Chime. And I'm happy to act as a conduit to introduce anyone to Mark and Shelley who wants to.
Thanks, Peter. And Eddie, great question. I found out recently Mark is also a member of the great fraternity Kappa Alpha Psi. Peter, you can go to the next question.
Am I concerned about retailers who could go bankrupt due to COVID? Of course. Absolutely, definitely concerned about it. In some sense, we're lucky that we don't have a lot of the big nationals. Our two really big national tenants are Starbucks, they're not going bankrupt, and Foot Locker, they're not going bankrupt. They've actually been doing quite well, even in the negative retail malaise, and they're good credit companies. What I worry about is our small tenants. If you go inside the mall, I made a pejorative comment earlier about what the mall looks like inside. And I'm definitely, we haven't done really anything to upgrade that yet. We haven't gotten to it. So I'm not proud of how it looks, but I am very proud of the businesses we've got there, because we've got about 50 odd businesses that support themselves and their families through their business at Red Bird. And so I'm not disparaging them at all. And I am worried about them because they're very, very vulnerable. We have done everything we could to assist our tenants to get PPP loans. We know most of them have applied for them. Some have gotten them, some haven't. Some of them are applying to some of the funds that Councilman Thomas and the other members of the council have made available for Dallas small businesses. We are offering rent concessions to help make sure that they can stay open. And so it's a balancing act. We have to also make sure that we don't go bankrupt. And if we allowed every tenant, 6 months of free rent, I don't think that Encore is going to forgive us our electrical bill. And I absolutely know for certain that the Dallas Central Appraisal District is not going to forgive us our property taxes. So it's a balancing act. Charles says, I have a school tenant that would like to do a 10-year lease for 5,000 square feet in the mall. Charles, if you would have that person contact either me or Terrence Maiden, that would be great. Terrence is handling all of our leases, but I'm happy to take the initial inquiry. My email address is pbrodsky@redbird-dallas.com. Ken, what is the current status, if any, of the TIF relationship between Redbird and Valley View? So that was a brilliant plan put in many years ago after the ULI study. And it continues to have the same relationship where we will keep 100% of our TIF increment. We will receive 10% of the Valley View increment. Thus far, not much increment has been created in either place. I think we're actually a bit ahead of Valley View. However, Valley View is beginning to take off, and Sarah in their property. Hopefully the Valley View TIF area will be expanded. I understand that is something that's been bandied about for a while. And so we're cheering Valley View on because it's in our financial interest. From Maria, for the jobs that will be generated, what kind of workforce education do you think will be needed? What is the role that the community college can play to support the project? The workforce education is going to very much depend on what the jobs are. I know that there was a partnership between Chime, and by the way, I'm frozen. Can you guys, Casey is frozen on here. Can you guys see me still? You can? Okay, Ken, I see the thumbs up. Good, thank you. And so there was a partnership there that was helpful in terms of that training. We're going to be doing quite a bit in healthcare, and there's going to be a lot of jobs for Parkland and UT Southwestern. Frankly, we have tried to work with the community college district on this issue. I worked very closely with Gloria Smith, who I have nothing but the greatest things to say. I mean, I love everyone at the community college district. My hat's off to Dr. May and to Gloria and the whole team there. We were talking about a potential partnership, but at a certain point, they concluded that they would rather, I think, study it a little more and maybe use some of their own facilities rather than ours. And so we don't have anything going with them currently. Charles, the answer to your question on would they have conflicted? No, that would have been a terrific partnership because Workforce and the community college district, particularly Work Ready U, already collaborate together. I don't see any other questions, and I've got council. Oh, good, there you're back, Councilman. You were frozen for a while.
Yeah.
Do you have any other questions?
Of course, Peter. Of course. One, tell us about you. A lot of people who are on here are haven't had an opportunity to hear your story about your upbringing, why you chose to come here, what brought you, or should I say, who brought you here. And so I think that'd be a great story for them to hear.
Well, sure. I mean, I could begin back in 1970 when I was born, but we'll be here all day. Essentially, I moved here. I moved here in 1995 for a job at the old Hicks Muse. I worked for Tom Hicks for many years. Really, I consider myself the luckiest guy in the world. I was born into a family where I never had to really worry about anything. I didn't even have to worry about, I didn't worry about paying for college. It was never a thought that I would do anything other than go to college. And I was sort of oblivious to the fact of how lucky I was. I moved here in 1995. I grew up in New York City. I thought I would live here for a year, maybe two. A chance meeting of a very pretty girl at Mi Casino one night changed that, and we've now been married for 23 years and have 3 kids. And as I said earlier, I've lived here half my life. What brought me in particular to this opportunity was that I got involved with KIP, which is a charter school group that works particularly in Southern Dallas. And I began spending a lot of time in Southern Dallas. And I just was very perplexed by the contrast between what I'd always been told, which was don't go there, and what I found, which is a great community filled with lots of people, broad socioeconomic spectrum, but because I think of the undeserved reputation, just an incredible lack of amenities for its residents. And my thought was, I'd been very fortunate financially when I was with Hicks Muse, and my thought was, what a great opportunity, rare opportunity in life to find an investment opportunity, which is the supply-demand imbalance between the desire for quality and the supply of quality amenities, and an opportunity to do something positive for the community. And Red Bird seemed like the best way to do it. And so I dove in. This is my first real estate development, and my last, I might add. This is a passion project. It's been fantastic. And I'm really fortunate. I mean, it really changed my life. Doing the Leadership Dallas class is what introduced me to KIPP and Southern Dallas in the first place. So I'm incredibly grateful to that organization. And I've just made incredible friends like Casey, like Willis Johnson, and so many of the people on the phone today through these experiences that have really enriched my life. So it's been great.
There is a question in the chat, but I want you to tell a story about Starbucks. That's, I lived it along with you, so I know the story. And it was a great, great story. The founder decided that he would go with a different concept. He talked about Ferguson and what happened in Ferguson, how that inspired him to look at a different type of concept. But tell the story about your recruitment and courtship and marriage with Starbucks.
So first of all, hats off to Terrence Maiden, because Terrence is the one that had the Starbucks relationship and introduced them to Red Bird. So in the courtship analogy, he was definitely the matchmaker, and if not the groom himself. Starbucks, I think, Starbucks realized that there were, like Red Bird, a lot of communities around the country that had a much deeper purchasing power than was reflected in the commercial amenities that they were provided. And frankly, it's inextricably linked with race, because the vast majority of these communities are communities of color, and the vast majority of those are African American communities. And I think that Starbucks, to its credit, realized that there was an opportunity to do just what we're trying to do, which is to engage in a profitable enterprise, which is sustainable, but also be intentional about where you're deploying your resources. And so they came up with this concept called a community store. And the first one was in Ferguson. It arose after the shooting incident in Ferguson and all the attention that was brought to that community. And it was a huge success. And what community stores mean is it's a store just like any other, with the exact same products and the exact same prices and the exact same look. But a few things are different. One is they put a conference room in, because a lot of these communities don't have a lot of meeting spaces. They hire directly from the community, and they are very intentional about who builds their buildings and does their finish out, and they use community companies. And so they began to look around the country for other communities that had the socioeconomic capabilities to support a Starbucks store, but also were underserved. And so that's when they were looking to come to Dallas. That's when Terrence pitched Red Bird. It was a very difficult negotiation. I mean, I can absolutely assure you 100% that this was not a philanthropic effort by Starbucks. It was a tough negotiated lease. I mean, they treat this as a business deal for them. And so it was a lot of, it took a long, long time. And they were, nervous about being the first ones to come to this redevelopment when there was no physical evidence of it. And to their credit, they took the leap. It really wasn't much of a leap, in my opinion. I think it's much riskier to open the 90th Starbucks in Frisco than to open the first Starbucks in Southern Dallas. But because of the perception issues, it felt like a leap. I will say, this is a bit of an aside, but I will say also that the thing that I have really, I've really have an enhanced appreciation of two things from this project. And I'm talking two things really on the topic of race relations in our country. Number one is, while I will never really have a true understanding of the issues that people of color and African Americans face in this country, I've had about as up close and personal a view to it as one who's not African American can have. And it is shocking but not surprising what obstacles are placed in front of this community. That just the whole concept of Starbucks being risky. There was nothing risky about it. There isn't a Starbucks for miles. And the demographics around the mall are great for Starbucks, but the internal obstacles that people face getting their colleagues and bosses to overcome their initial biases are extreme. The other thing I'll say is that because of that dynamic, I have an enhanced appreciation for the power of diversity in leadership, because almost to a person, the leader of the team of whichever company or business wants to come to Red Bird usually is African American and in a position of power. And what that tells me is not that they are biased and therefore favoring Red Bird, but they are the only people that can see this community clearly and understand it. And then because they have that different perspective and they have a seat at the power table, they can make things happen. But pretty much any lease that we've talked about today, that dynamic has been the case. And it just underscores the power of really having diversity on any team, because you never know what perspective someone's going to have that you just are blind to. So anyway, sorry for that aside.
No, that was important, Peter. That was important. It was really important because a lot of people, even those who are on the Zoom call, haven't spent as much time fully indoctrinated in Southern Dallas, in Oak Cliff, in Red Bird, as you have, and the lessons that you've learned from that experience have been valuable not only for you, but for others who may be considering investing in Southern Dallas, investing in Oak Cliff, and investing in Red Bird. Last question, and this one is from the chat. Can you share how the food court and restaurants shall evolve in the overall development, and if there are any tenants who have signed leases, if you can share? And let's see if we can do that in a couple of minutes, because we want to kick this back to our president to close out.
Sure. So the food court in its current existence is part of the area that I referenced before that's going to be knocked down. So that food court will go away. Our intention is to have a lot of food on the lawn, basically the other buildings that were on that rendering aside from Foot Locker. And we would also like to have food, whether it's food court or food hall or small restaurants, we're not sure, on the first floor of what we're now calling the North Wing, which is the former Macy's. The answer is we have not signed any leases. We are in conversations with several restaurants and food concepts that we can't share right now. But once we announced Chime and UT Southwestern and Parkland I think that the restaurant story became a lot easier. And so we do expect to have quite a bit of food. We're going to have 1,500 people on the site working every day. We're going to need to have a place for them to get lunch. I saw earlier, my last comment is, I don't think there's anything wrong with fast food. Someone asked earlier if it's going to be fast food. I think we've got enough fast food in the area. Now, if I could get a Chick-fil-A, I'd take that, because first of all, I think it's a very high quality product. And second of all, everybody loves Chick-fil-A or Cane's. I know my kids, that's all they've eaten during the pandemic, Chick-fil-A and Cane's. But generally speaking, we are looking to change the narrative, and we are looking to provide the amenities that are not already plentiful in the area. And what is not plentiful is high quality sit-down restaurants, healthier options, and more varied options. And that really is what we've heard the community wants. And that's what we're looking to provide.
Well, Peter, I want to say thank you for joining us. Thank you for giving us an update on what's going on at Red Bird. You can tell by those who are participating today in the questions, people are very interested and excited. A lot of comments were, wow, this is awesome. You have honored every word that you made, every promise you made to me 5 years ago. And we're excited about what we see. We're excited about what's to come. Continue to be safe. We need you around healthy. Your family needs you around healthy. And this community needs you around healthy. So thank you very much. At this time, I'm turning it back over to President Jones.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much, Peter, for those Red Bird Mall updates. Thank you to our chairman, Councilmember Casey Thomas. And very briefly, I just wanted to give a couple of announcements. First of all, due to the pandemic, unfortunately, our Taste of Oak Cliff Taste of Oak Cliff event has been canceled for 2020. We will pick things back up hopefully in 2021, still in partnership with the Dallas Zoo. As of right now, our Centennial Gala will move forward. That is scheduled for the first weekend in December. So just wanted to provide those quick updates. Also, if you'll notice on your screen, if you need the latest COVID updates, we have created a resource page that's at oakcliffchamber.org/COVID-19/. And you will receive or get all of those updates, whether you're looking for business or personal resources. All of the latest greatest information is there. Again, thank you for everyone who participated and attended this meeting. Thank you all. Have a great day.